tab unmuted there. All right. So, I know this is, for me, this is something I've been interested to try for a while, but I didn't really have a reason. And now with COVID and everything going on with stay-at-home time, I thought it would be, fun to step up my meetings when I'm working remote with folks. And I started learning OBS a little bit and was improving my setup at home here. And today is the first day of International Coaching Week 2020. And I rapidly threw together a blog post. I'm going to attempt to do a couple more this week, but we'll see how it goes. And out of this first blog post, I decided to go ahead and create a presentation and attempt to do my first live stream. So here we are today. And for people who don't know me, or if this is your first time meeting me, my name is Ed Schaefer, and I am a lean, agile, and DevOps coach. I focus primarily on culture and process as well, and then act as a change agent. And I really love people, and I love helping people succeed wherever they can, and that's what I attempt to do in my work every day. And yeah, so if you ever need to get in touch with me, there's a few ways up on the screen right now. And I'm just going to try diving into this presentation. And just like the blog post, which was fast and dirty, the presentation is fast and dirty. So we'll see how good it is. This is the first time going through it, and I'll probably revise it and run it a few times more in the future. But for International Coaching Week 2020, wanted to share some of my thoughts and perceptions and kind of what I've come to learn over time about different things. And for today's topic, and let's try, there we go. Today's topic is going to be, what is Agile coaching, and what does an Agile coach really do? I think a lot of people have had experience with Agile coaches in some way, if you're in software development, or Scrum Masters, which is, to me, a type of Agile coach. And I think that sometimes there's confusion about what an Agile coach should do. I know I certainly didn't know when I was first getting into this. And I liked the idea, the sound of a coach, but and going in that direction for myself personally, but I didn't really know what it meant. And it's I think that's particularly true in a lot of organizations, especially when the expectations on coaches aren't always set, and a lot of people have different ideas about how to approach things. So this is kind of my thoughts. So first off, who am I? If you haven't met me before, so I have a MSIA, Master's in Science in Information Assurance and Cybersecurity from Regis University. I am a CSM, a CSPO, an ACSM, Advanced Certified Scrum Master. I have my Cal 1 Certified Agile Leader, my ICP ACC Certified Professional in Agile Coaching, and CSPSM not quite, almost. I just have a little bit of homework left to do, and then I will be completing that one as well. I also do some stuff with Agile Denver, in particular the Kanban Community of Practice. And if the conference were to be happening this year, I was scheduled to present there as on the topic of event storming. So it's too bad that that's not going to happen this year, as that's one of my favorite conferences. I work at Alteryx as an Agile coach right now. That's my full-time position. I really enjoy it there, and if you're a software developer and you're looking to work in data analytics, contact me and I'll see what types of positions we have open, and always happy to bring more people on board. And prior to this, I've worked at a Fortune 300 financial company, and helped with Agile, and worked with software development teams, and teams of all types really there, and did a lot of process improvement, and also helped kind of push lean and Agile and DevOps forward some at the company. So this is my sort of small consulting gig, or my identity online, which is Agile Ideation, and that's if you ever want me to come and run something at your organization or do something with your teams, I would do it through that. And lastly, I'm a volunteer instructor and trip leader with the Colorado Mountain Club here in Denver. So if you're in the area and you're looking to learn about the outdoors, learn how to be safe, and all of that sort of stuff, the Colorado Mountain Club is a great place to go. This content and most of my content that I share publicly is Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 4.0 license, which means you are free to share this. You can copy and redistribute it in any medium or format. You can adapt it, you can change it, remix it, transform it. You can build upon it for your own reasons. You can even turn it into a presentation and sell it if you'd like to. The only thing is anything that you take from me, please give attribution and proper credit, and pass along the good word of the attribution from and share alike from Creative Commons, which is a great license out there. So an Agile coach. What is an Agile coach? Well, I'm going to say these are all the things at a high level, and we're going to go a little deeper into each of these. So to me, this is kind of the elevator pitch I have for him. Is an Agile coach is a lean Agile DevOps leader and practitioner who brings themselves and role models behavior and encourages others to improve how they work through doing, telling, consulting, counseling, and advising. Kind of a mouthful, but it's a whole category that I'm not sure how to condense into one concept quite yet. They work through teaching and training. They work through mentoring, they work through facilitating, and professional coaching. And they do all of this by understanding people. So we're going to dive a little deeper and unpack each of these concepts. So an Agile coach is a lean, Agile DevOps leader and practitioner. So to me, this is about kind of leading the charge and moving things forward and kind of pushing for the next big thing, while leading people to understand the basics and then also practicing it. So it's not enough to know what Agile is, or how to run Scrum, or how to set up a Kanban board. You need to be developing your knowledge and learning from other people and adding to the community as best as you can. We're really trying to push these concepts forward, and while a lot of the concepts have stayed the same over time, they have grown and they have changed and they've developed, and they've gotten more complex in some cases, simpler in other cases, and so we're really trying to lead and bring everyone into this while also pushing it forward. So being a leader, it can mean different things for different types of people and different coaches who came from different places. Some coaches were developers or testers in past lives, past work experience, and they bring real technical expertise and that type of mastery to the table. And as a result, they may focus more on those technical aspects. And some coaches are experts in transformation, and they bring experience there, in terms of completely turning over an organization, doing change management, having organizational change, spreading messages, bringing different departments along. And so they're probably going to focus in that area. And then other coaches, they may have more like business expertise, where they have a focus on identifying business value, taking ideas and moving them through to fruition, or improving processes about how the business actually completes work. I guess I tend to be probably more in that business side overall, but I do like to generalize some. I'm really interested in the technical aspects, even though I'm not always the strongest developer, or trying to learn DevOps concepts is often difficult for me. But I do think that it's cool to be able to spread across all of those things. And regardless of a coach's focus or background and expertise, that's going to be reflected in how they act as a leader. But so we're talking about learning, and I've talked about sharing a little bit, like spreading knowledge and bringing more people on board. But the final piece, I think, for the is that actual practitioner. They need to demonstrate that they practice what they preach. That might be in their own personal lives, like a personal Kanban board. Some people I've heard about manage daily and weekly responsibilities, or track personal projects, or plan vacations, and even homeschooling curriculum you can use with Agile concepts. If you practice that and you push that forward, then by doing it at home and experimenting with new things, not only are you learning, but you're also showing to the people that you work with and the people you're trying to coach, a lot of times software developers, bring them along on the journey, that you're not just trying to sell this to them, trying to make them do it because the organization just wants to. You actually believe in this and you think that there's benefits to it, and I think that really demonstrates and shows that it does matter and it's meaningful. So I think that you really need to have that active practice, and that's where you can get in trouble, I think, sometimes, as say you have a team of coaches or leadership organization who's telling the developers, the software development teams, to be agile, to do Scrum and things like that. But if you're not actually doing that yourself, even on the product side of things, if you're not sort of taking that discipline and applying it, then how do you expect the teams to do it as well? And so, as an agile coach, somebody who's trying to get everyone to do these things, I think it's my responsibility to actively try to practice what it is that I'm telling people about and what I'm teaching about. And I do think that if you fall into a do what I say, not what I do type of thing, that you really weaken your relationship, and that's going to result in you losing influence over time. And as an agile coach, we can't really fall back on role power because that's not what the position is. It's about having influence and sort of being able to bring people along with you on a particular journey. Next is that an agile coach, they're going to bring themselves and role model behavior. And so with bringing yourself, that's just to show that it's not cookie cutter. It's not out of the box. It's not the same everywhere. It's not, it's going to be something that's unique, and you need to bring yourself to that so you can find that best unique way of working for you. And, you want the teams to bring themselves to work. Maybe not 100%. You don't want it to be overwhelming with like political beliefs or things like that. You don't want those into the workplace, but you do want people to bring their true personality, their interests, and really kind of show themselves so that they can build relationships with the people they work with and learn to trust one another. And so if that's what you expect between team members, then I feel like I need to bring myself as an agile coach and kind of be who I am, and reflect that, and that may include saying or doing things that are not always exactly right or perfect or politically correct, but as long as I acknowledge that and I can catch myself and sort of say, oh, hey, well, this is I didn't maybe say that exactly right, but this is kind of my lens or my perception on it, or these are the assumptions I had underlying this, and that's why I felt like that's what you were saying, or things like that. You can really grow relationships by showing who you are, and not just kind of doing things rote or by the book. And then role modeling behavior is, above I talked about that you need to practice what you preach, and that's certainly one thing, but where this could apply as well, like role model the actual behavior you want to see. But when I say role model behavior, I really think more about not specific practices necessarily, but the actual behaviors you want to see. So if you want behaviors around experimentation, then you should role model how you would run an experiment and check to see if it worked or not. And if you want people to be, say, better communicators and have more open conversations, whether that's the crucial conversations, the fierce conversations, or like radical candor, that's something that you need to role model for them, because people may not have seen it, or they may not know how to do it, or they may not feel comfortable doing it. And by having you do it for them first, then it gives them a much better sense of what they should be trying to do, and it helps them move in the right direction. And so that would be any types of behaviors about teamwork, collaboration, adapting, reflecting, working incrementally, experimenting. All of those are behaviors that you can role model and help them to see that there is safety and that there is flexibility and the ability to do those types of things. So the next part is about how an agile coach works with teams. So the categories for this is doing, telling, consulting, counseling, and advising. I've kind of grouped that all into one category. Then teaching and training, mentoring, facilitating, and professional coaching. So I'm going to go through each of these one at a time and kind of describe what these mean to me and sort of how I view this. So the first is this big bucket, this doing, telling, consulting, counseling, and advising. And so with this, it's with agile coaching, it's sometimes a strange job because one of the big goals is to help teams figure out the best way of working, and then help them get the work done fast, safe, and in a happy way. But in most cases, the agile coach should not be in there like hands dirty with their sleeves rolled up, actually doing the job, doing the work for the team. And that's kind of where this bucket comes in, because there are cases where that needs to happen, and I think there's sort of a broad category, or broad range of what this behavior looks like. And to me, at this point, at least, the best lens that I can think of to look at this concept is the Management 3.0 tool, which is called delegation cards, or delegation poker. And this is a tool that in Management 3.0 is used to help managers and teams understand how decisions should be made. So here are the cards, and what you have is 7 levels, and as you move through, on the far left side, if you will, is the number 1, which is a tell. And that means the manager is 100% making the decision. They're going to tell their team what the decision is, and that's it, right? And then on the other far side, you have a 7, which is delegate, and that means that the team, the manager has basically stepped out of it completely, and they've given the team full autonomy or full decision-making power to go ahead and do whatever the decision is. And then you've got all the degrees in between, where number 4 in the middle is agreeing, where the two people, the manager and the team or employees or whatever, are going to agree together. They're going to make that decision together. And then you've kind of got the degrees in between. And with sell and consult, which is 2 and 3, the manager ultimately has decision-making power, but they're convincing or getting input from the team. And then on the other side, it's flipped, right? So imagine now, okay, we're ultimately going to give the team the decision-making power, but they need to sell or get buy-in from the manager, is kind of how to look at those numbers. So when we think about it on this scale, and we replace a manager with an agile coach, we want an agile coach to be generally closer to 7. I mean, we almost always want everyone to be closer to a 7, but an agile coach, with managers, there's going to be cases where you can't, just because of organizational structure, other limitations, or maybe the team just doesn't care and they want the manager to make the decision. But with an agile coach, we're generally trying to move to 7s across the board in terms of what we're doing. Like we're not really delegating, we're not giving away the responsibility, but actually, I guess that's a better way to look at it, is we're giving away the responsibility for doing whatever the thing is, the experiment, trying to learn something new, those sorts of things. But we can't always do that right away. So when I apply this to the concept of the doing, telling, consulting, I would say that doing is really a 0. That's not even on this scale, because and this may need to happen in some organizations, but that basically means the agile coach is fully responsible for whatever, the idea, the plan, the approach, the outcome, and the team is not really involved. Now, sometimes doing, it may be necessary to demonstrate, to show someone how something is done, and that's certainly okay. But doing, as far as on this scale, would be really a 0. And we longer term, the more we're working with a team, the more developed a team gets and everything, we want to try to move away from that. And that's kind of the position, I think, for an agile coach. Now, the idea of telling, which I had above, is just the same as what's in the manager tools to me. And basically that is like an agile coach is telling the team what to do. And I feel like in a lot of ways, this is an anti-pattern in the ways that agile coaches work, is by telling the team, you should just do it this way. And this one winds up ultimately being risky, because the team may just think the coach knows best. They can just tell us what to do, and they won't realize or embody the idea that they're actually closer to the work than the coach, and they may not, what the coach is suggesting may not actually be the best way of working for them, and they need to figure that out for themselves. And by telling them all the time, that may create challenges there over the long term. I think telling someone how to do something may be okay in limited circumstances or for short periods of time. There's been the idea of like running one sprint or two sprints a year, by the book Scrum, regardless of how you work otherwise, just as a way of kind of resetting and seeing how you do against the baseline. And that could be a case where, maybe telling a team to do something like that could be good. But really, I think that we're not in telling most of the time when we're working with teams doing that, because they don't have to listen to the coach. Maybe in some cases they do, depending on how management structure is set up and everything. But this is not really, telling is not really where we want to be. Now I had, instead of selling, I had a level called counseling, and I used counseling because I've seen that in other places, in other models and things, where they'll say that an agile coach is a counselor. And for my purposes, I'm going to equate it to the idea of selling and call it a level 2. And that's because counseling, by definition, is providing advice to someone. And in my experience, a lot of time when advice is being given, in the way that I interpret counseling, it's sort of like the agile coach is trying to sell the team on the idea, right? It's like, I really think that you should do it this way. It's not as strong as telling. It's not like demanding that they do it, but it's, I think this would be best, and I really suggest that you go this way. That's kind of what I think of when I think of the word counseling in terms of agile coaching, and to me, that's kind of level 2 on the delegation model here, and falls into selling. The next level I had was consulting, which matches exactly with the Management 3.0 consulting, and I think that this gets us closer to where we want to be. But again, the problem is that it's ultimately the agile coach's decision about what to do and when. At least they get input from the team, and they're closer to being on that other side of the scale. But it may be necessary in some cases, or there may be benefits to that in some cases, especially when the team maybe needs a little more help getting somewhere or getting over a hump or something like this. But there's still some risk there of the team just sort of, you may not know if they're actually agreeing with you or saying that, yes, this is a good idea. It may just be them going with the flow and saying, I think the agile coach knows best, and therefore I'm going to just say yes to this. We're going to skip over agreeing, because I didn't really have that in the kind of concepts that I had here. And the last one on here was advising. And so advising, to me, matches exactly with the number 5 in the Management 3.0. In this case, the team is ultimately the ones who make the decision, but the agile coach is just providing some input and potentially encouraging the team to adjust the plan. So I think that this does help us move the team towards making and owning their own decisions. This, to me, would be sort of the hey, we had this idea and we'd like to know what you think, and if there's some ways we can change it. And you saying, okay, I think that if we do this and if we do that, I like the idea, but if we do these couple of things, I think that that'll get us a lot closer to where you're trying to go. I'd really recommend that you do these things. And so they kind of brought the idea to you, and you've given them some tools or some ideas that may help make it better. And it's ultimately their decision, but I think this is definitely a good step if you're kind of in this realm, and I think this gets us closer to kind of the 4 sort of standard or common stances that people talk about when they talk about agile coaching, which we're going to get into now. So the next sort of big stance is teaching and training, and I think this one's pretty straightforward, right? This might be developing organization-wide training to help introduce new team members and other things like that to the organization. It may be creating training so that you can help individual teams with things that they need to expand on or get a little bit better at. Maybe specific topics and detailed topics like managing backlogs or splitting user stories, even things like managing conflict. Whatever the organization needs, you should be able to help in teaching people about it and helping to train people so that they're more skilled at it. The next one is mentoring. And mentoring, I think, is a pretty interesting stance. It's easy to understand, but I think there is some nuance to it that can be often missed. So mentoring is the idea of using past experiences to give a person or teams ideas about how to approach or solve a problem. So this might be things that as a coach you've personally experienced, or it may be things that have been shared with the coach, like the coach may have learned this from other people along their journey. And basically, what mentoring is saying, this is how I've solved this problem before, or this is how I've seen this problem solved before, or I've seen these things and these didn't work, at least in this organization for these reasons. It's using past experience to sort of help inform and give information to somebody to help them figure out how to move forward and move ahead. Um, and I think the sort of nuance to the mentoring is, as a coach, I think it's totally fine to mentor, and the word coach. We'll talk about professional coaching sort of at the end, but coaching has a specific connotation in that context, and I think from kind of the standpoint of being someone's coach, and not their full time mentor, but being a coach and taking a mentoring stance means that you need to be really specific and always pointing out that just because something worked for this other team in this other situation under maybe similar circumstances, but at another organization at another time, whatever, that means that there's no guarantee it's going to work for you. It might be the best thing to do, it might be the right thing to do, but it might also be terrible in this situation. It might work in 99% of cases, and this might be the 1% time when this doesn't work. Because it's totally fine to try out things and take other people's approaches and ideas. But if you don't evolve and experiment and develop those over time, then you're going to get in a situation where you're going to be stuck with something that doesn't work for you and for your situation. And so I think with mentoring, people will sometimes hear this worked for me and take that as this is the best way to do something, and I guarantee it'll work again, or give them a higher level of confidence that it's going to work in their situation. And that's not always the case. And I think that's something that needs to always be pointed out. Like, this may be a starting point, but it's not saying that you should definitely do it the exact same way. Next is facilitating. And facilitation is pretty interesting to me, and I think it's really important. But again, I think sometimes there's things that people miss about it. We've all been in poorly facilitated meetings. They seem to jump from topic to topic. Nothing ever gets decided, and it feels like a lot of time gets wasted. And so a facilitator is there to help create the best space for a group to come to better decisions more easily than they could if they were on their own. So whether that's tools, time boxing, helping move things forward or take things back, noticing things that the people who are involved don't notice. A facilitator is really just there to help structure and advance the conversation and make sure it stays a conversation and doesn't devolve into something else. And so one of the challenges with the being a facilitator is that if you have a stake in the decision that's made and the specific outcome, then you're going to have a really hard time actually being a facilitator, because you're going to be involved and engaged in the discussion. And so an agile coach can come in and be that neutral facilitator, that person to help make sure that things move forward, help people speak up, make space for people, all those types of things. And that's something that I think is something that agile coaches do need to practice a lot, and make sure that they're able to do. Because even in whether it's a big meeting, whether it's a multi-day offsite, whether it's a big PI planning, or even if it's just a conversation between a couple people, there's always times that you need to help facilitate and kind of move things forward. So that's definitely a stance that I think is important to consider. And I'm not going to go into any specific tools or techniques. There's a million things out there. There's a million books. They're all awesome. But the best thing you can do is practice and try new things, and get opportunities to facilitate different meetings so you can see how you might approach different problems. So the last major kind of stance in the categories of what agile coaches do is professional coaching. And I would say professional coaching is probably the least understood, and for a lot of people, and in a lot of cases, it's probably the most complex. And a lot of the other coaching that we've talked about so far, you could sort of equate to like a sports coach, where I'm going to tell. If I'm a sports coach, I'm going to say, oh, you should, jump 30 seconds earlier, but 30 seconds would be a long time. But, I'm going to give specific advice. Oh, try pivoting this way, whatever. Make sure that you're looking for these climbing holds, or make sure that you're keeping your heart rate at this number, things like that. And so you're kind of you are in a lot of ways doing things for them, or helping to give information away. And professional coaching is really more about kind of asking questions. And I guess the best way to think about it is it's a partnership between a coach and a client, and the focus is the client's needs and desires. So they should be creative and thought provoking. And as a coach in a professional coaching situation, you sort of take the position that the client, the person you're working with, is an expert on themselves and an expert on their lives and their work. And together you're working to help them unlock, unpack, or uncover the information that's already sort of inside them. And so it's about understanding and clarifying what you hope to accomplish as an individual. And as someone who has had a professional coach, I will say sometimes it's hard for me to know what my goals are, or what it is I'm trying to do, or what challenges I'm facing, like what I'm trying to overcome. And working with someone who is making sure the conversation is focused on that, and is able to take the stance of curiosity and asking questions and being on my side, is great, And there's been times when I've had a coaching call and I've started it by saying, like, I don't really know what to talk about, or getting through a couple things and then saying, I think that's it. I think we're done today. And then just a one or two coaching questions later, the whole hour has gone by, and now I'm left sort of scratching my head and thinking about my behavior and how I bring myself to things, or how I perceive things or look at things in a different way. And I had a colleague who had also done some coaching, and I remember we talked about it once, and he said, after each coaching session, I'm not exactly sure what the coach did, but I know that I feel different and I learned something. And I have to totally agree with that. It's like you don't always know what you're getting out of professional coaching, especially up front, but you know that something is changing, and that you're you're moving the direction you want to move, and it's a pretty cool feeling. So I think this is potentially a whole other blog post, and potentially a whole other stream and presentation, but I'll get to that at some point down the road. So the last couple things that I had said was that an Agile coach understands people. And I think that the way that they understand people, I think a lot of Agile coaches and Scrum Masters are really interested in kind of behavioral economics and psychology, and how people think and how people work. I know I am in particular. And so to me, there's kind of three major areas of understanding, understanding people, that Agile coaches focus on. The first is like how do we encourage change, and how do we respond to resistance to change? And so if we're trying to change the status quo, if we're trying to move things forward or get out of the old way of working, if we're trying to empower people who maybe have never been empowered before, or people who, if we're trying to shift power, by empowering teams away from other people, they may resist that change. And so I think that it's important for an Agile coach to understand how people respond to change, how people what makes people move towards change or motivated to change, and kind of doing that. The next big area I feel like is managing conflict, and this could be in terms of the crucial conversations. It could be in terms of trying to understand people better. But I think that there's conflict all over the place. It's not always bad, but I think it's about making space for conflict, growing the right kind of conflict, and making it so that conflict is not about attacking individuals, but it's about attacking ideas and trying to find the best idea, and that everybody knows they're working towards the same goal. And so they're not, they're not fighting each other. They're really, they're working together when they're working in conflict. And so if you can teach people how to have and not shy away from healthy conflict, then that's something that you need to understand about people to help them get there. And then the last big area is helping with collaboration. Like how do we understand people to help them with collaborating? So how do we get people to work together better? How do we get people to communicate better? How do we get it to where they're kind of using the same tools, the same language, and voicing assumptions and really understanding each other truly. And so I think that this is kind of the third big thing around understanding people that a lot of coaches focus on. So before we get to the end here, I wanted to just talk about a couple of coaching anti-patterns. If you're not familiar, a pattern in software development is kind of like a leading practice on how to write or design code. And it's something that tends to work well for most people in most cases. So an anti-pattern is the exact opposite, which is it's something that people often do that you may tend to see, but it doesn't work very well, or it moves us away from the direction that the people are trying to go, or whatever the concept is we're trying to accomplish. So there's I think 4 big ones that are anti-patterns for coaches that you need to watch out for and be careful about. The first one is big change all at once. And I think that this happens quite a bit where somebody comes in and they try to make big change everywhere all at once. They uproot everything that has been done up to this point and replace it with something else. And I think that it just makes people feel like what they were doing before wasn't good, which is disempowering. I think it's overwhelming for people with too much change all at once, which can result in resistance down the road for other changes. It's just it's not respectful, really. You want to go and learn about where they came from and why things are the way they are, and then help make small and sustainable changes with small wins if you can find them, so you can build momentum and succeed over the long term instead of trying to push everything all at once. And we're going for the long game here. We're not trying to make short-term profits. We're trying to have long-term health and stability, anti-fragility. The next big one is doing agile but not thinking or being agile. And so the anti-pattern here is about when you're working with teams and you're coaching them, you teach them how to do something, but they don't actually understand the why or what's underneath of it. And so the most common way I see this is big companies where Scrum is pushed really, really heavily. And somebody comes in and they teach them the ceremonies and the roles and how to do story points, which isn't even in the Scrum guide. But and then they just kind of let them run with it, and they never explain that there's any other way to do anything. And so for those teams, Scrum becomes Agile and Agile becomes Scrum, and Kanban is just a board that you move work on, and there's no other ways of doing things. And the sort of the overall grander experiments and big ways of improving, I think aren't always embodied or captured when you push something like that and don't push sort of the values and principles side of things. So to me, I generally try to focus on the values and principles first, or more heavily, and then talk about practices, tools, sort of on the sidelines or just below that. So that way it's like, well, the way that this practice helps move towards this value, right? And that doesn't mean that you have to do this exact practice, but if you can find another way to get this, to hit this value or ensure that you're meeting this principle with some other practice, then we can totally try that out and see if that works for us or not. The next one is drive-by coaching. And this is kind of the one, you can imagine what this is. It's like, hey, I'm a coach and I'm just going to pop in to one meeting this week and I'm going to listen, but I don't know what's going on. And, who knows, maybe it was a bad day, maybe whatever. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to tell the team what to do. Maybe I'm going to jump in right then, come in, listen for 2 minutes. Oh, you should just do this. Or how come you didn't speak yet? And then drop out and leave. And, I think that I do think it's important to build some sort of rapport, relationship, with the team, and also to build understanding of where they came from and where they are today, and see if there are patterns in the things that are happening. Not everyone can deep dive in a team, but even going for a few days and if you can introduce yourself and say why you're there, and then maybe some interviews or one-on-ones, like different things that you could do to show the team that you really care and kind of get involved with them, is going to build a better relationship and most likely they're gonna, if you build a relationship with them and show them that you're passionate about helping them get where they want to be and understanding their problems, and not just driving your agenda, you're probably going to get much better outcomes because they're going to trust you. So if you see something that they don't think is a problem, you have a much better chance of convincing them that they should do something about it, or kind of moving it forward. The very last one here is just acting like a manager or project manager, and I kind of hit on this lightly before, but an agile coach is, they don't have any authority, they don't have any role power, right? They are just there to help the team, and so their power is influence, and the way you have influence is building relationships, and that's kind of where it all comes from. I think that's just something to keep in mind: is you're not a manager, you're not a project manager, you're a coach. And this honestly, this one, most of these, but definitely this one applies to Scrum Masters in my experience. You're not a manager, you're not a project manager. You are there to do something different for the team. I think that's important to keep in mind. So we're getting to the end here. How can an agile coach help you? I hope that from what you've heard here, what you've seen, that you understand some ways that a coach may be able to help you out. An agile coach specifically, that an agile coach is a unique role because it has a lot of things that it does. And so sometimes you hear people say, I've heard this a few times where it's like, well, they said they wanted an agile coach, but they actually want a trainer. Or they said they want an agile coach, but they just want me to facilitate the meeting. And, I definitely understand if you understand professional coaching, and kind of executive coaching is in that sort of vein. If that's the direction you want to go, and I imagine life coaching is probably in there as well. But if that's what you're mainly focused on, then those other things may seem maybe a little tedious or annoying to you. But that's what an agile coach is we're trying to teach agility everywhere, right? And that means we need to teach people how to communicate better, and that means we need to spread knowledge. If we expect our teams to spread knowledge to one another within the teams, or within the organization, then we need to spread knowledge that we've gained from other people and other organizations and other places we've worked, or other teams that we've interacted with, or if we have colleagues or peers who work at other companies and we can learn from them, we really need to share that. And so if you need a coach to facilitate your next team planning or another meeting, so you can see how to coach, to how to facilitate those better, then go for it. If you think you need formal training or workshops about some agile concept, contact your agile coaching team. And if you want to learn more about professional coaching, maybe you can set up some time. And a lot of agile coaches are trying to develop their professional coaching. So if you're interested in having a professional coach, you can probably find an agile coach who will do some coaching with you to help you move forward on that path, to learn more and to experience it, and that'll help them grow as well. There's lots of ways an agile coach can help you, and I hope you seek them out at your organization. So yeah, coaches are here for you. We want to help people learn to do better, to be better. We want to just help. And so I hope that you want some help, and I hope you seek us out. And I hope we can help you. And I hope that the folks at your organization are awesome. And so thank you. That's it for my stream today. This has been an interesting experience. I will have to check the recording and see how this goes. I hope that everything worked okay, and that I don't have too many problems or hiccups. And we'll see if this worked out. I will be back in the future. So thank you again, and have a great day.